We all know that sudden, euphoric wave of relief when you take a heavy, looming responsibility and just push it into tomorrow. Buying yourself 24 hours of freedom feels like a victory. Take 8-year-old Shivam. He loves to play, roam around his neighborhood, and actively ignore his school homework. His go-to strategy whenever a deadline approaches is simply claiming he has a terrible stomachache to stay home. But then his teacher drops a massive deadline on the class. The very next day, she requires every student to bring in their English, Hindi, and math notebooks for a full mandatory inspection. Shivam hasn't completed any of them. His immediate reaction isn't to start working, but to plan his next fake illness. By deciding to dodge the deadline, he creates a comforting illusion in his own mind. Outsmarting the teacher means the workload simply ceases to exist. His classmate Ankit corners him in the schoolyard, pointing out the obvious reality. Shivam's notebooks are entirely blank. He is completely unprepared for what's coming. Unfazed, Shivam enacts his plan the following morning. He puts on a performance, clutching his stomach in agonizing pain until his mother finally caves and allows him to rest in bed. This brings up an interesting question. Look at this bar chart. On the left, we have a manageable baseline task scheduled for day 1. On the right, that exact same task block is squeezed into a much narrower timeline labeled tomorrow. Does evading the deadline actually erase the work, or does it merely defer the debt while accumulating interest? By successfully staying home, Shivam thinks he won the battle. In reality, he hasn't eliminated his homework at all. He has just activated a behavioral trap that will require constant, exhausting maintenance. Back in the classroom, the teacher systematically goes through the pile of notebooks. But evaluating 3 subjects for dozens of students takes time, and the final bell rings before she can finish. The system pushes back. She announces a slight protocol change. Any student whose notebooks weren't checked today will simply be checked tomorrow. When Ankit meets Shivam at the park later that evening and delivers the news, the fatal flaw in Shivam's strategy is exposed. The external world didn't forget the deadline, it merely paused the timer. Notice this flowchart, the maintenance cost. Shivam is locked in a cycle. Lie, skip school, teacher delays, repeat. He fakes illness for 3 days to keep the original lie intact. The quick fix mutated into an exhausting chore. Eventually, this loop grinds to a halt. By the morning of day 6, the evasion strategy completely collapses. His mother finally connects the dots. She notices a stark contrast in his behavior. He suffers from debilitating stomach aches every morning, yet miraculously recovers to play with his friends all afternoon. She delivers an ultimatum, threatening to call his father if he doesn't get moving. Scared of his dad's temper, Shivam loses his remaining agency. His choice is gone. He is forced to pack his bag and walk into the school. When he arrives empty-handed, the teacher confronts him. With all excuses exhausted, she delivers a non-negotiable order. He must submit all his completed notebooks the very next morning, no exceptions. Shivam is now facing a logistical nightmare. To even have a chance of passing, he pleads with Ankit to lend him all 3 completed notebooks so he can copy the answers. What follows is the brutal physical reality of the all-nighter. Shivam sits under a single lamp, frantically writing without a break, fighting off sleep as he tries to compress nearly a week of ignored assignments into a few dark hours. He spends the entire night and well into the morning churning out page after page, executing a massive sprint just to close the gap he created. By avoiding a minor daily task, Shivam engineered his own hyper-compressed crisis point. He spent days worrying and lying, only to end up doing the exact same work under the worst possible conditions. The next morning, a severely exhausted, red-eyed Shivam walks up to the teacher's desk and finally hands over the massive stack of completed notebooks. The teacher looks at his bloodshot eyes and recognizes that this physical exhaustion is the result of compressing days of work into a single night. This is the overload equation. On a graph, steady work appears as a low baseline, but forced into a tighter window, it creates a towering spike of energy expenditure. Postponing adds a stress penalty. The mental weight and physical strain drop heavily onto the workload. Sitting there exhausted, Shivam realizes the irony of his master plan. Doing a little bit of work on the assigned day was actually the path of least resistance all along. You can always push a heavy boulder into tomorrow, but the brutal reality is that it never gets lighter. Confronting the task today is the only effective way to protect yourself from the compounding, exhausting debt of tomorrow.